Client's initial vision for the space was that they just wanted a very modern, clean-line cinema. They wanted to focus more on the equipment and making sure that the audio and the picture quality was excellent. Often clients ask for star ceilings, and what they're actually referring to is a product. Those products are not correctly designed for a cinema room. So while we might do it for some clients, my preference would be to actually engineer a solution. The ceiling is actually a bass trap. If somebody were to look very closely, there's actually tiny little pinprick holes above me. The ceiling is actually a true acoustic ceiling, and to then make that work took a lot of design skill. It's not just a case of making it something that works, it needs to be serviceable long term. So each of these panels can actually be taken down with the fibre optics. These are all things that we're thinking about when we're designing one of these projects. The ceiling is 2.9 metres and the cinema is 4.8 metres wide, so it's a really nice sized cinema. There's plenty of space for the seating. Often clients are putting seats up against the back wall, which is a huge mistake, just simply because there's a build-up of standing waves up against the back wall. So generally speaking, when you're about a metre off the back wall, things are starting to work really well. And in a room this size, we've got plenty of room to actually not just get the seats separated into good positions, but in this case we've actually put a nice sort of bench in at the front of the seats where they can put down their popcorn and drinks and things like that. And even when they're reclining, there's still plenty of room to get up and move around the cinema. The subwoofers in this project, in this case they're actually housed in the cabinets at the front of the room. We've got a fair bit of space in here, and these are a 15-inch subwoofer. There's actually 4 of these in the room. There's 2 at the front here, and then there's 2 in a completely different configuration at the rear of the room. When we arrange subwoofers in this direction, we're actually benefiting the seats across the width of the room. When we're putting subwoofers at the back of the room, we're actually balancing out the standing waves in this direction. The subwoofers at the rear of the room are actually not down low like this. They're actually mounted up close to the ceiling. The reason why we do that is because we're getting that same cancellation from floor to ceiling. We also do have bass treatments in this room. There are bass traps in the ceiling, there's bass traps in the seating platform, there's bass traps at the front corners of the room, but we still want to correctly position subwoofers. We still want to correctly position the seats in the room. Every little step that you do in a cinema is actually getting you towards your end goal of having the flattest frequency response. There's joinery underneath the screen at the front of the cinema, and that's primarily for a gaming PC, and we don't normally put a joinery underneath the screen because it actually is a compromise acoustically. We have to treat the cabinet so that the cabinet actually doesn't resonate. We have to actually ventilate the cavities in the cabinet, but it's something that this particular client wanted, and we do address those needs for our clients when they bring them up.
It takes quite a while to build a rack. You do need a lot of patience and concentration. The longest I've worked on a rack would be maybe 7 or 8 hours, I guess. My background really is in professional audio. I've done studio work like as an engineer. I've done film sound, radio installations. It just all flows in to help what I'm doing here with David. I really enjoy the fact that you are expecting a high quality product, and that's exactly what we give the client. That really is why I do this sort of work. If I just had to throw things together and it was just mediocre, I wouldn't be doing it.
A critical element in our cinemas is actually the Lumagen video processor. We want to be able to calibrate our systems, and each source as an input into the Lumen can be separately sort of calibrated and treated. But the projector needs to be tuned. It needs to be calibrated for not just grayscale but also for colour. And then introducing technologies such as digital tone mapping, which Lumagen's a market leader in doing. These are all critical elements to get right in a cinema. So for us, a Lumagen video processor really is the cornerstone of our cinema. The biggest challenge on the project is something you can't see, which is the sound isolation. We had to pay special attention to the sound isolation above us through the ceiling. But then the next big thing is that we have a ducted air conditioning system. So we have ducts penetrating that ceiling space. So all of that has to be attenuated. You can see that we've got the vents built into the floor here. So there's a vent in the step, there's one on each side of the room, and there's a vent in behind me on the rear platform. So we've got ducts coming through these vertical columns on either side of the room into the platform. Having the 4 vents and having large grills allows us to slow the airspeed down. and it's that slow airspeed which creates the lack of noise, but it also has the side effect of a much more even temperature throughout the entire room. It means that you never really have to turn the air conditioning system up high. It's operating at low levels in a really efficient way. The projector is one of the biggest sources of noise in most cinema rooms, and so we typically would build it into a hush box like this. Both sides of the glass are optically coated so that the reflectivity of the glass is about 3%. Light is coming from the lens through the glass, and that light is potentially being reflected back into the projector lens. So this is an important part to sort of get right. We've got this lid that opens up, and you can see there's insulation in there to sort of quieten the whole projector down. There's ventilation for the projector, there's intakes and there's outtakes, so there's a fan up in the ceiling pulling the air out and ventilating that heat back out of the cinema room. And consequently we've got air coming from down at floor level into the projector box and cooling the projector down. So in every project we do, we would do some degree of hush box design like this. Although we've got speakers in the ceiling and it might look like we're cutting a hole in the ceiling to put the speaker in reality we've created this entire false ceiling. We generally do not like to cut holes in our sound isolation systems, and we want to minimise that as much as possible because it's hard to track that type of thing in the building process. Something that differentiates this particular speaker from a lot of speakers is that it's a full MDF enclosure. The only sound that's coming from the speaker is from the driver, and the sound quality doesn't change depending on what it's actually mounted into. So this is an ideal speaker to be using in a cinema. This cinema has what's called D-box motion simulation. These chairs actually have actuators built into the chairs. The chairs have to be built with much stronger timber. There's a lot of structural plywood in the timber. There's a massive big hardwood beam through the middle of this chair to brace it. Otherwise it would fall apart with the motion over time. It's not just a case of doing the design work and engineering that we've done at the beginning of the project, but we've also at the end of the day verified it, and that passion that someone like Sound and Image sees from the design documentation through the build photos through to the last verification, all of which is data which we've given them. It's that level of passion which comes through in our projects, I think, is the reason why we're winning so many awards.